I'm Toolis. I recently retired last year in 2024, finished up my career in Japan. And before I get into what 5022 is, FTT, kind of want to share my story and share my journey, because that's kind of how the idea came about and where it all started for me. So growing up, sport was a huge part of my life. It was part of my identity. I was sport mad. Anything related to sport, I was there. I played pretty much any type of sport in Australia. And yeah, I loved it. I love the idea. I always thought I'd be a professional athlete. The idea of getting paid to play sport, travel the world, the whole lot, it was something I really wanted to achieve. And thankfully and luckily I was able to do that. So my journey started in 2013, when I started playing rugby professionally. I grew up in Australia and the opportunity came to come over here to play at Edinburgh Rugby in Scotland, which I obviously took with both hands. And my career projection was pretty smooth sailing for me from the start. I was able to kind of play a few games within the first season, towards the back end of the season, and going into the second season, I started to play more regularly. And you know, by 2015, I was able to make my debut for Scotland, which, albeit wasn't the greatest debut. I made my debut in the Six Nations against Italy, came on within a few minutes, get yellow carded, and we ended up losing the game at full time. So it didn't feel as bad because Hamish Watson made his debut and got yellow carded too. So that softened the blow a little bit. But up to that point, it was rather smooth sailing. And you know, for a while after that, it was going pretty well. But then my first taste of professional sport kind of happened. I was in a scrum and felt a pop in my elbow. I thought that wasn't right. That didn't feel good. But there was no pain. I continued to play. I thought it was all good. Got a scan and realised, okay, I've tore the ligament off the bone. Out for 3 months. That was probably the first downer in my opening of my career, but it was fine. Did my rehab, cracked on, got back to it as you do as a professional athlete, and then from there thought, hopefully nothing else happens, and that was the case for a while, and then I got another injury. Left shoulder was starting to give me a lot of problems. I was able to play for a season or two, and then had to get surgery on it because it wasn't feeling great. I was able to come back pretty quickly with that. And then I had to get surgery on my big toe. I woke up one day and I could hardly walk. I found that was a piece of my bone had been chipped off, so I had to get surgery on that. I came back, my first game back, I did my knee, but what was meant to be an 8-month rehab turned into 2 years. The accumulation of those injuries built up over time. Probably within 2 years, I just kept getting injured and injured and injured. I feel like I couldn't get to the root of the cause. I had no idea why I wasn't getting any better. All the specialists I was seeing, all the rehab I was doing, it just was not getting any better. And that was a concern for me because I thought I might have to throw in the towel, retire, and I was only 27 at that time, 28. That was definitely the darkest time of my life, the injury frustrations, but just kind of the identity crisis around that. As professional rugby players and as professional athletes, that's kind of who you are, that's what you're good at. When that's taken away from you, you really struggle. Luckily, I was able to get a contract in Japan, but my knee injury did kind of follow me. I was able to play again, but I just didn't feel like I was the same player. I didn't feel like I was performing to the standard I used to. I was able to get through 2 years in Japan, and I thought I could keep playing, but I just felt like there's no point, so I decided to retire. But thankfully, fortunately enough, 5 years prior to retirement, I kind of took upon myself to make sure that I was ready for that transition, put my money to good use, and make sure that when I got to that point, I had to walk away from the game, that financially I was in a sound position. That's when I met Pav. I said to Pav, look, mate, I want to be able to replace my income. I want to be able to walk away from the game and not have a massive drop in salary. Finances, sure, but the time to be able to figure out what I wanted to do next. And I feel like that's just as important rather than having to go into a new job out of necessity. And this is kind of how FTT was born. And I feel like there's a lot of players, a lot of athletes, high performers that have to call time in their career and they're kind of not ready and they really struggle with that transition. Probably asking, what is 50-22? And yes, it is based on the rugby kick, rugby law, seeing opportunity, executing it correctly and paying dividends for the next phase of your life, similar to rugby, putting yourself in a good position to attack the next phase. I wanted something related to sport, related to rugby, maybe not too obvious, but probably is a bit obvious, I don't know. But so what do we do at FTT? Okay, so we primarily focus on high-performing property portfolio assets like guest houses, cafes, short-term rent. So we try and get income and create revenue streams from during your career. Not necessarily have to be during your career, but could be post-career or however you want to do it, but ideally during your career to set something up in the background while you're playing. And the beauty about it is that we've made it completely hands-off. We want to make sure that the athlete, the high performer, completely focuses on their career, what they're doing, and they don't have to do it all themselves. It's an aligned approach, so we make sure that the boys or investors, high performers, are getting the benefits first, making sure they're looked after. That's pretty much just a brief description of FTT and what we're about. We're really passionate about trying to do the same for other athletes and high performers. I'll now pass it to Pav, who will give insight into his career progression and how he's been such a big part of building 50-22.
Ben, thanks for this presentation. Why FTT? Any one of us who wanted to start a business, it looks good, but once you start actually doing the business, before you're going from point A to point B, there are so many different areas you need to be an expert in. And what I found, doing it yourself is close to impossible. It's only possible when you have a right team. The reason I like working with professional players like Ben, I always know that professional athlete, they have those core skills, discipline, resilience, they're tenacious. Once they put their mind to it, they will go after it. And you as a sportsman know than anyone else, once you go trying to win a game and sometimes things looks very impossible and then last minute it turns out. So there are so many skills, so many emotions you can transfer into business. Saying is one thing and doing is another. So you need to create a lot of proof that it's possible. So to tell you the bigger picture, FTT plan in its first phase, those of you who have went to our website who have seen our full plan for 2 phases, this is the first phase to have 1,000 guest rooms and 50 cafes. And it's very interesting to understand, this is not the goal of FTT. So FTT goal is to become the next unicorn, the next big thing from Scotland, so the whole world talk about how we wanted to support professional athletes worldwide doing that transition. So whether it's having the community hub, very tight-knitted community where people can get expert advice, and more importantly, become your trusted partners who you can trust. You can ask questions in a very safe environment. But in order for me to do this, as I said always, it's easy to say than done. I wanted to bring my co-founders and make them money first. So what does that mean is, most of my life I spent not only mentoring, but I've also helped property gurus, for example, to explain them how does different property transaction work, commercial property to residential conversions, bridging finance, development finance, all of it, 360 degree. But for me to tell someone that we have this great plan, let's come in and invest money, I'm never a great believer in it. So a lot of the businesses we have done from scratch. We have created a proof, we've created a demand, we proved ourselves, and then I have earned the trust of those co-founders. So the idea of FTT phase 1 is not FTT goal. FTT goal is completely different. It's to become the best in the world, a company from Scotland who is doing things for other athletes, and there's a reason why athletes. But the plan here, the 1,000 guest rooms and 50 cafes, is for those partners who choose to be part of FTT in this journey to make money first. There's a lot of hard work which no one sees. In order for you to go from that point A to point B, there is no fee, there is no joining fee, there is no membership fee, there is no mentorship fee. Already have a very vast infrastructure to achieve that, to make the members of FTT a success or money, whatever you want to call it, to earn their trust, then take the entire FTT team, the club, to the actual phase 2, which is the actual FTT plan. We wanted to be able to help people, right people, come and be our partners and make money, achieve that peace of mind. And once we give them peace of mind, what we actually giving them is time, the biggest asset in your life. Time to be able to either do whatever you want you to do, or time to be part of our phase 2, which FTT phase 2, which is a brilliant plan, and it's designed by keeping in mind a professional athlete, their journey, the challenges, which will only begin once we bought our members the time and the peace of mind. Thank you very much.